Okay, I think we're ready. I think we are ready. So I'm gonna plug up my other monitor because I actually need to have two monitors so I can put the question on the other monitor so that I can work and not be doing everything on the same monitor. I can't do that. I have to have two monitors. So I think it's working. We're gonna see. Um, I will wait and see if anybody gets on here because I want to make sure people can hear me before I get started. So I will. Where's my phone? Let me try to see if I can do it with my phone. All right, so back. So let me go to my. Go to my YouTube and let me see if I can actually hear. Since nobody's on here yet, and it looks like the screen is running. I just need to see if anybody can see me going live on here. So it says I'm live, but I need to make sure people can hear me. It says live. Yep, it's working. I need to make sure. So it sounds like it's working. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I've been doing this. This is like my sixth time um trying to get this to work, but I just wanted to start showing my process in terms of how I digitize logos. So I have a logo that I am currently working on, and I wanted to bring that logo up here. And it's the Dusty Rose logo. And I wanted to just go over some tools that you can use when you are learning how to use the software. Now, first, let's just take a look at this logo. Now, when it was given to me, it wasn't set up properly. It's kind of off center a bit, so you can see it's kind of tilted. So I'm going to go ahead and digitize it even though it's not up and down in the right order, right? Because I can change my design. I can change the direction after I'm finished, but it really doesn't matter, if somebody pencil draw a logo or whatever they do. It's super easy to change that. But I just want to talk about some things to look at when you first open up your logo and you're trying to determine what type of stitches to use to create this particular design. Um, this comes with a lot of trial and error. There's 1,000 ways to do one thing. Okay, so I don't want you to think that the way I'm showing you is the only way to do it. You can do it many, many ways, and always keep that in mind when you're, you know, working on a project. You don't necessarily have to do it in one way. So my particular process is I always study the design first to see what is the easiest things to do first and what is the more difficult thing. So to me, when I zoom into this logo, The most difficult thing is going to be these roses because they are smaller and they have more detail, right? You would think that these faces would be the most difficult thing. They were the easiest thing. One, because it's the same face, it's just flipped around. So all you have to do is do one face and just flip it, which is what I did, and I resized it and I was done with it. So the very first thing I did was the outline all the way around. And if you're new to Design Shop, I want to give you some tips on things you can do. So this image was actually sent to me with someone's cell phone. So also I want you to look at this while I'm talking about it. So if you look at this rose down here, 2 leaves, 3 leaves, 2 leaves, it's the same rose. It's just smaller. It's the same exact rose, it's just smaller. So once I do one rose, I can just drag this down here and just make it smaller. So a lot of times when you're looking at the design, pay attention to the things that you can reuse and duplicate, and it will make your process go so much easier, so much faster, and you will thank me later for all the time you didn't waste. And also, when you're looking at the design, see how vivid this design is? You can actually change the brightness. So if you wanted it not to be as bold, so you can work on top of this, you can right click on the actual image in your graphics list and click on dim the graphic. And what it will do is it will dim it out for you so that it's not so bright and you can work. Some people work better this way. It doesn't bother me either way. I can do either one, but when I'm working on the roses, I would want it to be, I would either have to zoom in like this. I like to zoom in because I feel like I can get more of the detail of the actual design more so than zooming out and trying to work on design. I like to get as close as I can, and that's what I love about Design Shop, is because it allows you to zoom in very, very close to your actual image. That's very important when you are working on files, because sometimes people will send you a hand-drawn image. They will send you all types of stuff. And sometimes the files are not that great, and you have to figure out how to complete the design with a bad file. So far, this is how much I have done with this particular logo. So they also wanted, this is the frame. So, this is another thing I want to tell you. When you're doing a design, use the hoop outline for the design that you're creating. So if I was making this for a bigger hoop, I would go here to my hoop manager and I would pick the hoop that I would be using, and then I would scale it to fit this hoop. Okay, so just keep that in mind, that when you get new hoops, you come in here and you add your new hoop too. So you can customize your hoop list. You can add hoops that are already there, and you just click on the ones you want to add. If you buy a new one, you can just put them here and they'll show up. Okay, so it's not difficult to do, very important to do. Okay, so since this is going to be on an apron, 9 times out of 10, I don't need to have a bigger hoop than 5x5. So I primarily do all of my small logos in this size range from 3.5 to 4 inches inside of this 5x5, because I love this hoop. This is my favorite hoop to use. I use it all the time. And on this side, I'll just cut on one area at a time. So you might be asking me, why am I using yellow? So I'm using yellow because when I zoom in to my design, I can see my hoop. I can see the design. Like, If I use black, it would be kind of hard for me to see, am I covering the section that I need to cover? So the density here that I'm using is 3.0. And the density is how close these stitches stitch to each other. So let's take a look at this. So let's change this to 10. I want you to see what's happening to the stitches. The stitches are going further away from each other, meaning that when it stitches out, this yellow line is what's being stitched, right? So it's going to be space in between here. But the smaller this number, the closer the stitches are together. So if I put a 1 here, it's going to be a lot of stitches. You see that? It's very important that you understand density and satin stitches. Satin stitches means it's going from here to here, here to here. So let's change this to feel. And I just recommend that when you're learning a different software that you take the time, even if you start with a box, it's a square, that you go through each stitch type, set it at the same density so you can actually see what's happening with the stitches. So I'm going to hit apply, and see here, you can see that the fill stitch, it looks the same, but it's not doing the same thing, if that makes sense. You will have to stitch this out so you can understand the difference between a fill stitch and a satin stitch, right? So if you look at the zigzag, it's almost going to look the same. So let's look at the zigzag. So you see how far away the zigzag stitch is? And let's change this to 5. See how close it is? Let's change it to 65. See how much further away? So this is all that's getting stitched. You can actually create a whole design with changing the density and the look of it, depending on what you're doing. But most of the time when I'm doing this, I try to stay at 3 points. Usually does the job. And if you turn off this, you can see it actually doing the zigzag in here, right? Put that back, right? So even though you're looking at this, let's zoom out. It looks pretty thin, which it is. 3 points is really kind of thin, okay? But we're going to start there, and we're going to start with a fill stitch. This is what I want to use on this one. And then I'm going to go on to my next item. Make sure you put on your short stitches. And let's look at, it's a single line stitch, it's 10 points. That's the width, okay? So that's how big it is. From here to here is 10 points. So let's change this to 50 points, and I want you to see what happens. It gets bigger. But you still see the design, the stitching of it is going up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. Okay? But we don't need, I just want to keep it at 3.8. I'm going to change it back to 10. And if you want to see how wide it is, you just look under there. So it's a lot wider than this, but you will see the difference when I do a test stitch out. The difference between having it at 50 width over the 10. So if I wanted to actually match this very, very thin line, I would say it might be like a 4. See there? And see how wide this is? Then we will have to go up here and we will have to adjust the density to a smaller or larger number. You guess. Let me see if you can guess it. Smaller number or a larger number. So if you said larger, let's change this to 33. It's too large. So we will have to take this down to like 2. Let's see what happens. It's getting closer. Let's take this down to 1. getting a little closer. Let's take this down to 0. Oh, can't go that low. See that? It can only go to 1, right? So if I close this out, this is how it's going to look when it stitches out. It's too far apart and it's not doing what we needed to do. This is why it's good to understand what's happening with the stitches when you are selecting stitches for a project. So 4 points is not big enough to do what we're trying to do. So let's change this back to 10, like I had it. And after a while, this stuff will start to make sense to you while you're working, and you can make the adjustments as you go. So I'm going to change this back to 3. And then we will test this out later after we get through going through all of the actual design processes. So now let's go on to this single line that we have here. And the single line is here. So let's see, where does this one start and end? So the green is where it starts and the red X is where it stops. So let's look at this one. It starts here, stops here. So then that means when we start the other side, the inside line circle, let's turn that one on. We want that one to start here, but we want it to stop on the other side because we have to do this one here. So here, we're going to sew from here to here. And then this one, or do we want the insides to stitch first? So these are things you have to think about. How do you want your lines to show? Do you want the line to show up on top of the circle or before? I would say probably before, right? And it starts on this side, ends on the inside. So in this case, we'll move this over here, move this green where it's going to start over here, right? And then we'll do both. We'll do this circle. This one will go start over here and then it'll end on the other side, right? Or we can have both. And then we're going to go back and change the density. So this one is also stitching first. So you have your straight line. So let's take a look at what's going on underneath. So this one's 3.4. So let's change all of our densities to be 3.0. We want everything to be the same. Let's look at our underline. We have a center line. See the center line that's going through here? And that's all we have underneath. But you can change this. It's easy to do. You enable auto underlay. And then we want to change this to maybe an edge wall. So 10 looks like it's on the inside. Let's click apply. So let's change this 10 to 2. You don't really see a big change of what's going on here. Oh, plus we gotta highlight it. That will help. So let's change it again. Edge walk, and let's change it to watch the middle line. Watch this line here. This is a center walk. Now we're changing it to edge walk. Let's change it. Just leave it at 10, but let's hit apply. Nothing really changed. So let's change this to 6 and hit apply. Nothing really changed. This is a single line. And this is why it's important. Nothing's really changed. You see this line out here? This blue line is not going to change, but the yellow is changing on the outside. So let's change it back to 10. Look at the yellow on the inside. You don't see it. You know why? Because it's right down the middle. So let's change this to 1. Now, when this stitches the underlay, it's going to stitch this line all the way around before it starts stitching on top. So let's watch it. Let's watch it stitch out. That's reinforcement. It's very important to watch what's going on with the stitches underneath, okay? That's important. So now we know we want to do a 1 point with a 20 stitch length. 20s is this to here, here to here, okay? So let's go back to the first one, and we're going to change this one on the other side to match this one. We set this one to 2. Let's set this one to 1 as well. So they're both doing the same thing. Single line, 10 points. So let's make sure the other one is single line, 10 point. Yep, 10 point, top stitch, 3.4. Let's lower this to 3.0, hit apply. And let's do the same thing for the other straight line. 3.0 is already set. So we're good. So now let's move on to the outside. So this kind of hard working on screen and showing you guys. So let's zoom out just a bit. So we haven't moved this over. So we started with the left side. It's going to start in the middle, go to stop here, and then we're going to jump clear across to the other side. Start here, stop here. Then we're going to do this outside. So since this is the second stop, we're going to start on this side, stop on this side. And then we're going to take a look at the settings on the outside circle. So it's 3.0, that's good. It's a single line, 10 point, underlay, nothing. So let's change this to a edge walk. Let's set this to 2 and hit apply. So now we have that set up. So let's go to the inside circle. Top stitching, 3.0, single line, set that to 10. And then let's do the underlay. Got a center walk. Let's change this to an edge walk. Let's change this to 2. And so now we have these 2 pieces set up, right? So now let's go on to the other things. I know you're probably looking at this and going, hey, Gail, the name is like not set up properly. I'm going to fix all of that. And I'm also going to show you my process of looking for fonts that are similar, that are already installed, and then how I go out and find other logos, other fonts that are similar. So let's move on. I'm going to delete this extra cut. Well, actually, I can move it up here. And then we're going to look at the face. So I did these last night while I was watching the game. Fight. So this is one eye, and what all I did was duplicate it and flipped it. And I just kept stretching it out, so it's kind of not the same size. So let's move it out just a tad bit. Let's bring it up just a bit. And then let's last night. I had this last night. I don't know what happened last night. Burn it down just a little. And that's essentially, that's all I did. So if you want to be a perfectionist, you can just click on this stitch that I'm using is called, and I might not stay with it. This is just a normal walk stitch. Now I might not stay with this, but let me zoom in. So if you're a perfectionist, you can just move these little arms around to fit the original design. And this will also help you with designing. You have to learn how to use, this is kind of like Photoshop. So if you're good at Photoshop, you'll be good at doing this. It's super easy. It's a very easy thing to do. You just have to take your time and pay attention to what you're doing. And also you're going to find mistakes and things that you want to tweak. I won't say they're mistakes. I'm saying you need to tweak some things. You might have thought it was looking good, and then when it's stitched out, you be like, nah, I ain't like that. So you need to know how to move these around. So all I'm doing is left clicking and grabbing this. You can also move it with the arrows like this. It's just like Photoshop. So if you can use, I forget what these are called, the handles, you'll be excellent at this. I mean, when I saw this, I'm like, oh yeah, I got this, because it's just like Photoshop. When you use Photoshop a lot, you learn how to use the handles to adjust, to create angles, and to do all that. So I would suggest when you're learning this software to go online and just do logos that you like online and then like recreate them. It will give you a lot of practice on different logos. So like you got Gucci, you like Louis Vuitton, all the things. I'm not saying that you recreate the logos and make products. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying just for fun, use these logos or just look up people's logos online and just redo them just so you can get practice. You never know. You might get a contract with them, and you might be working for these people. So I would say give it a try. So you see how I moved all of these and so that they fit, right? So let's zoom out. Let's take a look. So here we are. So we have the faces. It's the same face. All I did was flip it. Now, there's these little stars right here. Now, at first I tried something and I didn't like it. So I'm going to try another technique with these stars here. So since it's got like a square and a square, I thought about using the column tool. So in the column tool, you can just go left, right, left, left, and then you can use your right mouse to curve and just go right down the middle, right? Here to here, curve, curve, point, point. So it looks weird, right? But when you go from this side, instead of trying to do it all in one field, I want to know, does it give it the same look? Because the way I did it last night, I didn't really like it. So I said, let me try to do it like this, and maybe it will look more finished, more refined. And I thought about it. Now you're saying, what about this going from here to here? So we can fix that. So we have two pieces. We have the beginning and we stopped. Then we can go here, move it to stop in the middle, which means it'll stitch all the way down. Then it'll stop here, and then it'll start. You can have it start here and stop here, right? Then, if we really want to be cute about it, we can go in here and we can change the compensation. Compensation will add a little more girth to it, right? So let's go all the way up to 4. See what happens here? It makes it thicker. So let's go down to 3. Let's go down to 2. So see what happens? I built it by the pieces, right? So it's not the same piece. It's 2 different pieces, right? So instead of just trying to do one whole piece together, I made it 2 separate pieces so that it'll have the look that I want to do. And also you can do one piece at a time. So say for instance you wanna, let's zoom in on it. Say for instance you're like, well, I like this, but it just looks a little bulky. So take this one, column 2. Let's change, turn off the auto density. Change this to 3.0. Hit apply. And then go to your compensation and change this to 1. So if you want it to look more pointy, you can change the density and lower it, and you can also do the same thing for this one. So let's do this one. So you want to make sure you get the first one the way you want it, because you will probably go back and change it. Change this to 1. I don't really like this look, so I'm going to leave it at 2. Right? It looks more clean. And then let's zoom out. And also, don't forget to save. Right? So let's zoom out. Let's take a look. See that? So now we can duplicate the one that we like. Put that there. Duplicate this one. Bring them over here. Now we can see which one this one is. That's these two right here. So now we just move this up and we have the little stars. Now let's take a look at, we're going to do the most difficult part last. So this is the most difficult part. And remember, if you guys have questions, let me know. If you, first of all, can you guys hear me? I hope you can. And also send me some hearts or something. Let me know everything is coming across okay. Because I know I've been talking for a while. And I don't see how long I've been talking. But, 31 minutes. I've been talking for 31 minutes. And I'm not even sure anybody can hear me. It would be nice to know if you can hear me. You don't have to say anything. But please just drop a heart and let me know everything is sounding okay. And so I'm going to get back to this. So now we are looking at the letters. So let's take a look at these letters. These are a serif font. Serifs mean they have these little ends on them. And we can look through our fonts to see if we see anything that resembles this font. So let's take a look. So what I normally do is I turn it on this font right here. And I usually just put it up here at the top. Let me turn off this. Let me turn off the background. So now let's look at through our fonts. See what we got working. So I have my true type fonts, which are the fonts that are on my particular computer. Your fonts may be different. They may be the same. I don't know. But usually this program will pull in the fonts that are on your computer. So what I normally do is I start scrolling through the fonts to see if I see any fonts that look similar to the font that I'm working on. So that one looks a little similar. So let's see. Let's turn this on. Let's turn off. I spelled rose wrong. Take that A out of here. And then let's make it bold. And let's make it a little bigger. Let's make it a tad bigger. Oh, so down here, let's look down the width and the height. So let's just make it bigger. And no, it started out looking like it was similar, but I don't know what y'all think. I don't think it does. The T looks a little different, so let's keep looking. So let's keep looking for a different font. Very important to find a font that is similar. Now I know that I have a font on here that's similar. I just have to find it. So let me turn the bold off and apply. And we're at Ming Lu. Let's go back up here where we were. It's about here. It almost looks like it. It really does. So let's try this one. What y'all think? So if I put bold on it and apply, it just seems like the O has a little more thickness to it. Let me do a little compensation and see if that fixes it. I don't know. What y'all think? But take the compensation off. Let's drop it down to negative. It's a little too thin, and like I like the fatness of the S. The S's are not that thick. So let's put that back. Now I want to show you how to put this on the letters. So here you have a couple of options. The options are straight, which is what we have. We have vertical. So hit apply. See the vertical? So you can change it to vertical. You can change it to arc. So now let's look at arc. So right now our radius is 3.0. So let's go up to 5. So you can see what's happening. So the larger the number, the larger the arc expands. I want to say what, horizontally. So let's go down. So let's go down to like 2. See what happens. So it's going down. See, the curve is starting to happen at 2 inches. So the radius is starting to change to 1. All right, so now we're starting to get into the curvature of this particular logo, but the letters are much larger than the logo. So now we need to talk about decreasing the size of the logo to fit. Now we can do this manually, moving it out like this, or like this. So look at this circle. See the circle here? So let's change this to a 7. See that? See what's happening? It's starting to spread out so that you can fit it up here with the items. So let's change this to 750. And all of this is trial and error. You have to take your time and begin. Remember, I'm not going to do what they did. I'm trying to fix it so it fits in this curve, right? So let's change this to 8. And now let's change this to 8. Let's change this to 95. Let's change this to 7. Let's change this to 8. So you see I'm changing this gradually because there's a number that fits in this art. And your job as a digitizer is to figure out this problem. This is a problem, right? So we're trying to solve the problem where this logo wording fits inside of this, yet it's not on the arch, it's not on the letters. All right, so let's keep going. And this is some of what I do when I'm digitizing. This is all of what I do a lot of times. You're actually recreating the logo that was given to you. You're redrawing it. Okay? So now we have this at width of 2.4. So this is the width and this is the height. So the height is actually a little too high. So let's take this down to like, let's try 9.2. Let's try 9. Well, it is. It went to 1, huh? 0. I'm starting to like it, but I wanted to stretch out just a tad. I wanted to go like right in here. See how close it is? how high it is. I want it to go away. So let's change this to 0 and do it. So let's go to, let's see what happens if I put 1.9. It's too far. So let's try 1.6. Let's try 1.3. It almost looks the way it is now. See that? This arch, 0.2, 1.1. So it might not be 1 point anything. It might be less than 1 point. So let's go less than. Let's change this to 0 and see what happens. Ooh, that ain't it. That ain't it. So let's try 8, 7. Let's try 890. Alright, let's try 920. Let's try 950. Let's try 990. So now let's decrease the height a little bit. Not that little. Alright, so now let's bring this over a bit. Okay, so we're getting close. So you see why this is, you just have to keep working with it, right? And that's what I love about it, is because you are solving a problem for somebody. You're creating, change it to 6. No, I want to go higher. Let's try 1.6. Let's try 1.826. So now I'm looking at this, and these letters are not looking the same. So let me go find another font. I don't want to spend a lot of time trying to fit this, and this is not the right font. Let's try this one. Well, see, it doesn't have a curve. It's more of a flat. Let's look at these serifs right here. I think I've already looked at these serifs, and they weren't one of the ones that I would be able to use for this particular project. It's more of a fancier, thicker R. And what I'm really trying to do is not have to recreate this font and redraw it. I'd rather use a font that's already in my program. So let's keep looking. I thought I found it until I looked at the R, and R wasn't matching up with my logo. So let's look at some other options. There are many fonts in this software, and I really love that because sometimes I can find a match for two different, for one logo with two different fonts. It happens all the time. I can take an R from somewhere and take a S from somewhere and put it together, and nobody knows the difference. Okay, so look at this one. This one looks pretty close. I'm looking at the S, looking at the T, looking at the Y. So let's try this one. This is Baskerville Old Face. So let's see if this one might do the trick. Although the O is kind of a little different. All right, so let's take that down. And also you can see this circle here. You can use this circle to kind of line it up on the letters. It could help you. Not saying it will, but it could. So now we see that we're a little closer, but the letters are not going all the way over. So you can always move these letters, but the curve is not like those because that curve is wrong. So we want to make sure that these letters are a little bit higher. So let's look at what can change the radius of this logo. So let's change this to 4 and see what happens. 4 is lifting it up, but it's not lifting it up where it needs to be. Let's make sure we have the straight line here. And we're gonna bring this over. And bring this over. So we're a little bit high over here. Alright, so let's bring this down. So sorry for my silence, but when I'm working, it's kind of hard to talk and do this at the same time, which is my struggle. And it's not your struggle, it's just my struggle. So let's bring this rose around. I think we might have it. But something that I always do is I move these stops so there's no, I'm concerned about the distance from here to here and here to here. All right. All right, so let's do this. Let's pass over. I'm going to move this over here. And I'm going to turn off the background and I just want to look. Now, let's take a look at this. Now, look at the distance from the top and this side. So I'm not really feeling this side too much. Let's back out. Let's back out. Let's take a look. I kind of like it, but I don't. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it's 10 spacings. So this probably needs to come over just a little. Just so this space in the, sorry, this apartment is just, let's move Dusty Rose over just a little tad. And then let's move this over so there's no jump there. It just stops stitching. So I'm filling the Dusty Rose here. And then let's turn all of this because it's all gonna be one color. It's gonna be light pink. Now we have some more letters at the bottom. So I'm liking how this is looking at the top. Now we have to add Salon and Spa at the bottom. So what I normally do is once I get the letters right at the top, I duplicate these letters, open this up, and then I'm going to change these words to say salon, all capital, salon and spa. Right? So we hit apply. So now we have another set of letters to work with, words. And then here where it says angle, we're going to do counterclockwise and we're going to do 180. So now we have our bottom letters. And we can double click in here and we can kind of tilt this. So let's turn off the background and see how we look. So right now I'm not liking the distance from here to here, so let's do some adjusting. So let's adjust our radius to see if we can get this to be a little closer to what we want it to look like. So we want it to go out further. Alright, so how about this? Salon and Spa. This looks a whole lot better. Now I think on this particular logo, let me save. And also, I want to take a look at these faces again. Let's do a retrace. And I don't know if I'm actually all that thrilled about it looking like stitches. So let's change this to 9. So when you change it to 9, it's just going to be shorter distances. So let's look at a different number. Let's look at 5. Turn off the offset, turn off the retrace, and let's just apply it the way that. So see how tighter that stitch looks? I like this a lot better than the big stitch. So I don't really want it to look like that. So let's change this to 5 points. So they both look the same. So I think that this is probably a good ending to this. Now let's change the color to the color she wants, and it's like a light pink. And then we can adjust this. Okay, so I'm gonna change this. Now we can turn this so that it's upright. Well, let's change to a color you can see. So let's change it to black. So turn on this. This is without it being stitches, and this is with it being stitches. I'm gonna adjust these stitches here. And this one. So now let's talk about when you have a small design like this, and when you're typing letters that might be not really big, you want to use a thread that's like in the 60, 80, 90 width. That will help with the detailing in the stitching. So let's make sure that our top stitch is not 100% and that we change it to 3.0 like everything else. And let's change the other one to 3.0 as well. And everything else, I think, is 3.0. Let's take a look. And yep, everything looks pretty good. So I'm going to stitch this out with one thread. It's a pink thread. And the thread is, I will list all my, everything I use. Thread is a Madeira thread. And it is, let's see, the color of this, the thread color number is 1815, and it's a 60 weight thread. So I'm going to run out a sample and then I'll add the video into this video. So I hope this video was helpful to you. So let me show you again before we leave here. This is the original. I didn't mean to switch that to be. So the original logo is backwards now. So let me do this again. Oh, how did it turn around? Anyway, it's wrong now, so don't worry about it. But anyway, this is the new logo. And I'm going to stitch it out in pink. And I'm going to add it to the end of the video that I'll show it in a, I was going to call it a reel. It's not a real one video. These are called shorts. I'll show the stitched out logo, the first run in a short, and then you can see the difference. So I hope this video was helpful to you. I hope that you can hear me, and I hope it came out well, because there's no way I could actually redo this video. All right. So I'm going to run this out and I'll upload a short. Thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, always remember you can ask me. Peace and light. This is run 1.